Hey guys, so I wanted to show you how to do a car collage like this. So I choose a Lamborghini car. I have four different pictures. It looks complicated on my layers panel over here, but ultimately it's just a couple shapes with images clipping inside of these shapes. So as you can see, I have three shapes with these images clipped inside. Then I have a front facing car, along with an additional copy with that white background kind of in the back. So it's just an extra white layer behind it to kind of make it stand out, along with the logo that I have here and a border. So the border is pretty simple, it's just a rectangle with a stroke around the edges. And then there's some extra effects on the lights. So you can see the before and after with the lights added on. It's with a simple downloaded brush. So I'll show you how to do the brush as well. And it's all about preference on how you want to design this. There is some freedom here. Like some people like having the white behind the car, some people don't. Like it's completely up to you. I personally don't really like having the hard edges of those shapes, which is why I added it. But you could blend out those shapes simply by going to the shape themselves, adding a mask. So if you remember how to do the Japan flag at the bottom of your layers panel, you can blend out that. So I'll show you here at the bottom, you'll add in the mask. You'll paint black takes away, white brings back. I'll use the opacity layer, bring it down, and I'll paint black on that mask to kind of like fade it away. And so that's completely up to you, a personal design preference. So you get to choose and decide how you want to do that. To undo, Command Z, just a reminder. So if you don't like what you're doing, you can always step backwards. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. First, you're going to go to File at the very top of your screen, go to Create, and you'll do 8 by 10. Call this Car Collage. 8 wide by 10 tall, 150 resolution is fine. And then you will hit the Create. Then the next step of what you're going to do is you're going to pull over your images from your desktop. So I would recommend JPEGs. Make sure that they are a good quality. They're already edited. Do not put in Camera Raw. Don't recommend that only because it can mess up and create more edits for you to do. So put JPEG files into your Photoshop file. So I dragged and dropped all my pictures so you can kind of put them in the right order. Figure out like where you want them placed. When you figure out the placement of your objects, it becomes a lot easier for where you're going to put them. So, for example, I want this one to be on the bottom of my page. I'll hide it right now, and then I'll have my center console be in the center, and then I'll have my edge pointing to the middle of my page, which is why I have the front of the car facing the center. And then I will have the end of the car on the left hand side. So just kind of moving some things around where I want. Do I want to go over the headlights or the wheel? Like I have to decide what's going to work best with my shapes. So for now, I'm just going to hide them all so I can draw my shapes with the shape tool. I'm going to go ahead and use my rectangle tool right now. Now, if it doesn't have a fill color, you could go to the top and do a fill color, changing it to black. You could keep the stroke around it if you want. Like we could keep it yellow with the theme of the Lamborghini. And you could change like the size of that as well. So you can choose whichever color you want, or you don't have to have an outline at all. So it's just really up to you and your preference of design. Once you have it how you want, I'm going to go ahead and make two more copies. By holding Option, it allows me to make an actual copy. So when I hold Shift, though, it allows me to go straight across. So you see how it's only allowing me to go straight up and down or right to left. So it keeps it. So holding Option and Command at the same time. So again, holding Option and then holding Shift to keep it in a straight line so that they're all already aligned and they're all the exact same size. Now, if I just try to scale them, like I need them to be a little bit longer, it's going to proportion. So holding Shift allows them to be stretched. Okay. And then I can move it and adjust it how I want. I'm also going to make a diagonal. You don't have to. You could keep yours up and down if you want, but I personally like a little bit of a diagonal so that it can be a little bit more interesting. So I'm just going to go to the corner, hold and drag until it shifts onto an edge, and then hold Shift again to stretch my shapes until I get to a spot where I would like them to be. Okay, once I have my shapes, what I need to do now is I need to make sure that my spacing's good. I want to check that. And then I'm going to put my images to be on top of where they need to go. So when you're doing a clipping mask, this part is really important. You need to put the image right above your shape. Okay, so I'll hide the other ones so you can see. So right now, my rear view is going to be on top of my shape. I'm going to right click and then I'm going to go to create clipping mask. So now it's clipping inside of my shape and then I can move it around. So I could do on the rear light or the wheel, just kind of depends. You have to kind of play around with what you think looks the best. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it here for now and give that a try. Okay. And then the next thing, I'm going to check where my middle shape is. I'm going to find my image. Sometimes it's easier to like label them so you don't get confused. So I'm going to call this one center, and then I'll call this one the right. And so I know which one needs to go where. So there's my middle. I'm going to put it directly above my shape, create clipping mask by right clicking. And then I can also scale it. Maybe I want to show a little bit more of the car interior itself. I kind of like the scale difference as well. So it kind of brings your eye towards the center of the page there, looking at the rear view. And then last but not least, going to move my image above that shape, right click, create clipping mask, and then adjust it accordingly to where I think it seems to best fit. So I could either use the front light or I could use like the front, which I think I like the front with some like negative space around the front there. Okay. So the next step is to bring back my front. So there's a couple different things that you can do with this. So depending, I'm going to go to select subject and it's going to select just the car here. So I just want to make sure it's selecting that car. I can also hit the remove background. And what I'm going to do, oop, I was on the wrong layer. So make sure you're on the right layer first and relabel. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on the right layer, and then I'm going to do remove background. I don't like my cars floating in mid space, but again, that's kind of up to you. So like right now, there's no background to it. It has its own flair to it when you keep it. I'm going to scale it up a little bit using the move tool on the edges there. Figure out where I want to place it. And then that's probably where I'm going to put the text down at the bottom. So playing around, a lot of it is moving around. So I'm going to get the text for Lamborghini text logo from Google. So find a PNG if you can, and that's the way that's easiest, right? So go ahead and find yourself a logo that works for you, depending on what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, kind of move it towards the bottom, hit remove background, and it did a pretty good job at removing it. So what I can do is I can also select it because it's clipped out. So I could paint it a completely different color. Like if I don't want it to be black, I could change the color of it simply by going to my paintbrush, making sure that I'm on my actual image layer, not the mask, and say, okay, I'm going to paint it. So like right now I'm painting it white. My brush is at an opacity. So I'm just gonna, but maybe I want to bring it yellow. So like I'll try doing and painting it some yellow there. Notice it's only painting in the letters because change this opacity here. So it's only changing in the letters because it's already cut out. So it's only going to affect inside that, right? And then what I could also do is add in an effect. So on my layer there, I can go to stroke. I'll change this color to black here. And then what I can do is change it from the inside to the outside and change the thickness so it's not so intense. I could also add in a drop shadow. So clicking on the drop shadow there, changing the distance and the size, all that stuff is going to affect how it looks. So you just have to kind of play around with these settings to see like what you like, and then changing the opacity to bring it up a little bit more. Right. So like you get to decide what you want it to look like. So I'll go ahead and leave it here for now. Hit OK. So at least now my text has some, variation here. And again, I think my yellow is a little bit too pastel, so I'm going to go back in and paint it a little bit brighter. All right. And so now we have some options too with our text. Some people want to put the text in the front, some people like to put it up top or even behind the car. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. But first, what I'm going to do is on my image layer, so my car's not floating, I'm going to go to my mask. So make sure you're not on the image, that you're on the mask. So the mask is selected right here, the black and white. Go to my paintbrush. Black takes away, white brings back. And then I'm going to paint away with, I'll just use my regular brush here. So let me go to the settings and then I'm going to scroll up, go to the general brush here, right click to get the settings back open. And my brush opacity can go down just a little bit. And I'm going to paint back the ground that the car was originally on. Notice I'm leaving some white up above. So I'm just going to kind of paint up that part a little bit until I want it to um, kind of fade away. Again, like I think I did too far. So I'm going to do Command Z to go backwards. But again, black takes away, white brings back. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate of my car. So I'm going to hit select subject and then I'll do Command C, Command V, or Command J. Either one of those work. And that's the shortcut. So then I have a copy of my extra car. So if I wanted to um, move my text, so like my text layer, like with that extra car there, I can now put it behind and it will look like it's being stretched behind. So I'm going to move that layer underneath. And then if I hold shift, I can scale it so I can make it like tall. Um, it's a little bit more complicated when you have like a fancier font. Like if it was a bold, blocky font, I think it would work really well. But this font is a little bit hard to see. But some people like this kind of idea where they put it behind part of the car so that you can kind of barely see it. So that's how you would do that by making a copy of the car. You can make it transparent so it's not as visible if you'd like. That's kind of like up to you. But I kind of like in the front. So I'm just going to go do Command Z and keep it in the front for now. But what I can do though, if I don't want to do that, is create a new blank layer. So I'm putting it underneath my car of my copy and I'm just going to paint white. And what I'm going to do with that is then just kind of blend out some separation between my background and my car in the foreground. So just make sure your hardness is on 0, your brush opacity is lower, and then I'm just painting a little bit behind the car to kind of like blend out that harsh edge. From those shapes. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a border. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my shape tool. I'm going to make sure that my fill is on none. So I'm going to use the cross through there, none, and then my outline, my stroke will be white. And then I'm just going to draw a rectangle around the edges here. I feel like it kind of like makes it a little bit complete. I'm going to change the scale of that line a little bit, holding shift, allowing me to stretch that rectangle border so I can get it how I want. I could round the corners if I wanted to as well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to then add a filter. So I like to label it so that you can understand where it's at. So I'll call it the border here. And then I'm going to go to my top of my layers panel and go to overlay. And it has a pretty cool effect. So the overlay, it's like not see-through, but it's not transparent. I could make my car come out of that border too because it's underneath my car layer, which is kind of a cool effect as well. So the car is being jumped out from that, and the text I could then scale to. I could move things around a little bit, just little things here and there, moving the text where I want it to go. I think it looks better a little bit smaller so it's not the same size as the car. I like to scale it down a little bit more so there's some variation of size and like have it like kind of overlap that border. And I can still paint, like I don't really like the yellow. I'm going to go back to my text and paint it white. I think I like the white better. Change the opacity of it down a little bit so it's not so vibrant. That looks pretty good. And then the next step is to do the lights. So on the lights on my car, I'm going to go ahead, as you can see the on my finished portrait here, all I have to do is download these brushes and they're like almost like a stamp. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Brush Easy, and I also have some on Schoology too. But if you want to go to Brush Easy to look for your own, you can. It's Brush Easy like this at the top. and type in light flares and then find one. I like this number 4 one. It gives me some good variety here. Double click on that download and it automatically installs into your Photoshop. So then I go to my brush panel and I scroll down to find the light that I want. I'm going to choose this one here. And then I'm going to make sure I have a new layer. That's important. A new layer. And I'll call it lens flare. And then I'll just make my brush a little bit smaller because it's a little too big here. Make sure my brush is all the way up to the top. And then I'm just going to Command Z, keep finding it until it's right where I want it, right in the middle. Okay? And it's just 2 little stamps of light. And that's it. Done. You're going to go to export and then go export to PNG. And that's it. And again, like you can kind of play around with these things however you want. Move the shapes if you want your shapes to be a little bit wider. If you want to get rid of the stroke, go back to your rectangle, hit none, see how that looks. Play around with it, be curious, and don't just like assume that you can just follow the tutorial and just do exactly as I do, because it doesn't have to follow the same way. You can choose to do it however you choose. This is just like some basic steps. It's like, yeah, you can make these thicker. I personally like the spacing between them. I think it makes it a little bit clearer to see. But you know, that's the general gist of turning it in and then putting it on the Padlet. That's it.